Alright guys, for a while we've been talking about the quadratic function. Just a quick review. A graph of a quadratic function is a parabola. A parabola can look like this, can look like a happy face, or it could be upside down if the leading coefficient was negative. Remember that we used many ways to solve the quadratic equations. So that means on a graph to find the points where the graph intersects with the x-axis. So one of the methods was the what we call the x method. We would find two numbers that multiply to -3 and add up to 4. And if you think about this one for a second, well, we cannot really find those numbers. There are no two numbers that will multiply to -3 and at the same time add up to 4. That means that those x-intercepts are not nice integers, and we can see it right here that 1, well, on this graph would be somewhere here, and -3 would be somewhere here, so we would be able to say in between what number and what number. We could use the method that you just learned 2 days ago, the one where we would move the 3 and then we would complete it as square. That would be absolutely acceptable. However, today we are going to learn a third method, or third or fourth or whatever number we are as far as the method, and we are going to use the quadratic formula. Some of you already were using quadratic formula. I'm assuming that photomath helped you with that, but that's okay. So today we are officially going to learn that. In order to use the quadratic formula, we always need to make our quadratic expression in a standard form. That means that you want everything on one side and 0 on the other side. Then I would very strongly suggest list A, list B, list C. We've been doing this for other reasons as well. So if we have our expression, and our expression was x squared plus 4x minus 3, we want to list A, B, and C. A is the number that goes with x squared, and that's 1. B is 4, and C is -3. Now, the quadratic formula states that x is equivalent to -b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Well, this formula has its proof, but it would be a fairly complicated proof for me to show you at this time. You can Google it on YouTube, or Google it or watch it on YouTube. There's plenty different places where you can find it. If we were in a classroom, I would do it. But let's just take this at this moment as this is our formula, and we are going to follow this formula closely. So for this example, we have a setup. And again, I'm going to be writing this every single time. In a formula, we have a negative. And then I know that b is 4. So I am going to plug in 4 right in here. That's my b. Then in a formula, it's b squared. So it's 4 squared minus 4 times a again times c is -3 divided by 2 times a, which is 1. Okay? Plug in those numbers and then do not make any mistakes with calculations. So I am going to keep this as -4 plus minus b squared, so 4 squared is 16, minus, and you need to make sure you do the order of operation correctly. This needs to be done next. And if I multiply well, take a look at the signs. We have negative times negative, so I am going to actually be adding. 4 times 3 is 12, divided by 2. We can clean it up a little bit more because 16 and 12, we can add those two numbers. So we have -4 plus minus square root of, well, that is 28 divided by 2. When you get to the point where it seems like we cannot simplify it anymore as far as what is under the radical, we should split it up into 2 parts, and we should also pay attention whether the radical can be written in a nicer form. When I say the nicer form I mean we want to apply what we did learn yesterday. So we want to take anything out of the radical that is possible, or in other words, we want to simplify the radical. So from here, I am going to have 2 options. x is going to be equal to -4, and I am going to use one of the signs. So I'm going to say plus square root of 28. Again, I'm going to clean this up in just 1 second, over 2. And my second option is -4 minus square root of 28 divided by 2. So I separated this expression as this expression had both positive and negative sign in them. So from here, what I am going to do is I am going to simplify the 28. So I have -4 plus, and I know that square root of 28, I am going to write this on the side. 28, using perfect squares, that's 4 times 7. And I now know that I can take a square root of 4, that's 2 square root of 7. 7, that's 7. So having said that, I am going to say -4 plus 2 square root of 7 divided by 2. The same thing here, -4 but minus 2 square root of 7 divided by 2. And there's one more thing we can do to simplify this. We can cancel the 2 out, but in order to do it, we need to make sure we factor the 2 out of the expression in the numerator. So 2, -2 plus root 7 over 2. And now I can cancel the 2 out. Again, never simplify terms, only simplify if you have factors. The final answer here is -2 plus square root of 7. In this example, or in this part, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take out 2. -2 minus square root of 7 is what's left, divided by 2. 2 cancels out. And -2 minus root 7 is my second solution. All right. Take another look at this. So again, the idea is that we want to list A, B, and C. We want to plug it into our formula. Then we want to simplify. If the radical, if it's possible, we need to simplify the radical, and this is not okay to leave it in this form. We need to make sure that the answer is in the simplest form possible. So we need to make sure that when we get to this point, we separate it as 2 solutions, and then again simplify the radical. This is a tricky part, so please make sure you follow the process closely. Let's take a look at another example. So the following examples will produce integer solution, which should match the solution you get when you factor and solve. So basically, I'm telling you that those solutions should be nice. Take a look at our equation. We have x squared minus 12x, and I know that it needs to be in the standard form, so I am moving the 20 on the other side. And what I am going to do is I am going to check what my solutions are, so that once I use the quadratic formula, I will be able to check. Well, I'm looking for 2 numbers that multiply to 20 and add up to -12. Those numbers are 10 and 2, but -10 and -2. So -10 times -2 is +20, and they do add up to what I want. So x minus 10, x minus 2. So I know that my x is going to be equal to 10 and x is going to be equal to 2. Again, because I know few methods, I know that I can check if the work that I will do in a second is correct. All right, so let's start by listing A, B, and C. So A is 1, B is -12, C is +20. All right, and those are my solutions. This is something that I am going to be checking. I know that those are the answers I want to get. All right, so formula says, I will write this right here on the top of the page. X is equivalent to -b plus minus b squared minus 4ac under square root over 2a. So negative b is negative 12, but notice this negative is in the formula and you still need to plug in whatever the b is. So even if it's a negative, you still need to put this, and this is going to be something that we'll have to clean up. All right, another important thing, negative 12 is the number that we are going to be squaring. So remember that when you square a negative number, your answer is going to be positive. Minus 4 times a and times c divided by 2a, which is 2 times 1. All right, let's continue. Negative gives me positive, plus minus. 12 squared, that's 144. I am looking at my signs. This is multiplication, and there's only one negative sign, so negative. 4 times 20 is 80. Divided by 2. I still can clean this up, so 12 plus minus. 144 minus 80 is 64. And I'm just checking my answer, but that's correct. And we do know what 64 is. 12 plus minus, that's a perfect square, 8 over 2. And now notice, well, I need to split it in order to write the solutions. So from here, I will have that my first x is going to be 12 plus 8 divided by 2, which is equivalent to 20 divided by 2, which is equivalent to 10. And my second one is going to be with the negative sign. Well, I'm not sure why I wrote 10. It's 2. So 12 minus 8 is 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And I want you to see my answers match. So I did this using 2 different methods, but I still got the same answers. So I reassure myself that I did this correctly. Okay, when you are doing the homework assignment, make sure you are following the way I am asking you to do the questions. Again, I want to solve this equation by using quadratic formula. So please do not try to use any different methods right now. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to write this in a standard form. So I'm going to move 18 on the other side. I'm going to list my values, A, B, and C. So A is going to be 2, B is going to be 9, and C is going to be negative 18. This is my negative 18, this is my C, this is my B, and this is my 2. So again, the formula is negative B, so negative is in the formula 9. B squared, so 9 squared, minus 4 times A, which was 2, times C, which is negative 18, divided by 2A, so 2 times 2. All right, let's clean this one up. Negative 9, there's nothing I can do about that. Plus minus. 9 squared, I know that that's 81. Now, I have negative times negative, so I know there are 2 negative signs, so I am going to have plus. 4 times 2 is 8, and I am using a calculator here to multiply 8 times 18, and that is 144. Divided by 2 times A, and A is 2. Well, I could have done that. That's okay, I'll write this next time. Negative 9 plus minus 144 plus 81 is 225. And I need to remember about the square root, and I am going to divide it by 4. At this point, well, we should remember that 225 is a perfect square. So I have negative 9 plus minus 15 divided by 4. Square root of 225 is 15. If you didn't know this right away and you started to simplify it, it would bring you to 15. And from here, I do need to do two separate situations. So the first situation is negative 9 plus 15 divided by 4, which is 6/4, which is 3/2. And the second option is negative 9 minus 15 divided by 4, which is negative 24 divided by 4 is equal to negative 6. And that's it. Well, we didn't do any other method to check our work, but again, you can always plug in the x into the equation one at a time, and it should work. All right, we have 2 more examples, and I will do them quickly so that you kind of get more of an idea. This is telling you that you will not get a perfect integers, and you are asked to use the quadratic formula. Again, I am going to start by listing A, B, and C. Can't emphasize this enough. Be careful with the signs. And now the quadratic formula says negative b. That's not what I meant to write. Negative 2. So negative is in the formula, and then we have negative 2. Plus minus b squared. I am going to put this in parentheses so I know to square negative sign. Minus 4 is in the formula. A and C. Divided by 2a, which is 2 times 3. All right, let's clean this expression up. Negative gives me positive. Plus minus 4 minus 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times 9 is 108. Divided by 6. So what we do have is 2 plus minus square root of 4 minus, that is going to give me negative 104 divided by 6. And I want you to think for a second, what would happen if I took a square root of a negative number? Is it possible? Or is it possible at the level that you are at? Have you ever seen the square root of a negative number? What do you think is going to happen? Well, we are getting negative 104, so I am going to tell you this is not a real number. Well, at some point in Algebra 2, you are going to learn that this is an imaginary number. So this equation is not going to have a solution. So we are going to say no real solution. Okay? So something for you to keep in mind. If you get the square root of a number that is negative, there is not going to be any solution. Done. And let's do one more. Again, start by cleaning this up. 9x squared minus 5x minus 25 is equal to 0. What I do see is that each one of those numbers is divisible by 5, and it is okay to divide the equation by the same thing, again, as long as you divide every single term. So I see that they are all divisible by 5. When you remember to do that, you are going to be working with the smaller numbers, and that always makes our life easier. So what I do have is 2x squared minus x minus 5 is equal to 0. And I am going to plug in my values into quadratic formula. So let's see what happens. Negative b, well, I didn't list them. A is equal to 2. B is equal to negative 1, and C is equal to negative 5. So negative b is going to be positive 1 because again, now I've done this so many times, negative, negative, I know to put the positive, plus minus b squared minus 4 times a times negative 5 divided by 2a, 2 times 2, or you can just write 4. 1 plus minus. Well, let's see, what can I do as mental math? I know that this is 1. I know that I am going to have plus. 4 times 2 is 8, and 8 times 5 is 40. And I had 1, so 1 plus 40 is going to give me 41. So this is going to be plus square root of 41 divided by 4. Is there anything I can do with 41? 41 is not divisible by 2, it's not divisible by 4, it's not divisible by 9, it's not divisible by 16. Well, I think this is a number that we cannot simplify any farther. So what I am going to do is I am just going to clean this up, and I am going to make sure that my answer is written in a nice way. So my first x is going to be 1 plus square root of 41 divided by 4. And my second one is going to be 1 minus square root of 41 divided by 4. Please make sure that when you are working on your homework assignment, you are solving the problems the way I am asking you to. All right?